All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of What's What BR. We have a special guest with us today. We have Wes Watts. How are you, Wes?
Doing awesome. I'm glad to be with you.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you took some time to spend or took some time with us here today to tell us what's going on. You're in day two. For anybody who doesn't know, you're the superintendent over in West Baton Rouge, and day two of school, 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. Face to
How's
face.
that?
Kids on campus. Yeah.
Kids
So, yeah,
on
we started with
campus.
half days. So yep.
So how is that? I don't want to dive, from the difference, but it's got to be a lot of moving parts. I've learned, and for anybody, I'll say this for anybody who doesn't know. I remember used to being naive when I used to think that schools were, it was dead during the summer. It was the time when everybody had off, and that's absolutely not the truth. If anybody's in the school system, it's about the busiest time. It's, desks are in the hall and paint going on the walls and trying to get everything ready.
Yep.
And then now we've got everything that we're living with in this world that we're in today. But how's it moving over there in West Baton Rouge?
Yeah. So we've had a great first 2 days. We brought half of our kids in each day, just kind of do a soft opening, just to make sure everybody's still comfortable because we had just some last minute changes, and it was a little different this summer. Summertime for us, from like your school board level, is always the busiest time. That's when we do a lot of planning. That's when our schools are being cleaned, and that's when our schools are being painted, and all those things. That timeline this year was compressed because we spent the month of June with almost an extended school year. We spent half days in June bringing our kids back, just immersing them in some math and English to try and catch them up. And we did other things with them. We did some recreation, music, art. We just did pretty much a whole school day in half a day, just to focus
Wow.
on English and some of those other things that we think are so important. So then we only had July to really get all the school cleaning, and then in the middle of July is when the virus seemed to kick its head back up again.
Yeah, I'm hoping, praying that it's one of these, spikes.
Yeah.
Somebody told me kind of like over, Britain, it kind of popped up and then fell back down. And so I think that's what I'm saying. I believe that's what's going to happen. We're going to go there.
Yeah.
But with your task with keeping up with all the schools, all the teachers, like everything that goes on. How does that's got to be difficult. It's got to, it's a lot of moving parts as far as, especially in today's world, that we're living in, that it's, if you don't like what's going on, wait 5 minutes, it'll probably change. Right.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And that's just it's kind of part of it. That's just part of the position, right? And the key to that is having a great team. That I can't micromanage every little bitty thing, and nor do I want to, right? But having a great team in place from my central office staff, but also just having great leadership teams at each school. That's been a huge focal point for us, to put not just a leader, but leadership teams at each school. And working through them is the key to all of it. And we're very lucky here. We have a wonderful community that's supportive. We have my school board. I know I work for them, but they're not listening right now. They're that I know of, but they're awesome. They're great to work for. They're great to work with, and those things for us on the west side that's a huge part of our success. And but it really helps these things when you have a lot of moving parts. And some of the probably the more difficult things now is social media. Social media is people can just pick you apart for every little bitty thing, and so that just means information gets out there quicker, and sometimes it's not the right information. And so as much as you try to get ahead of things, sometimes one little bitty thing can be thrown out there, and then in Facebook, and then it's in 800 homes before you can blink.
We've lived some of that here where,
Yeah.
some people take things out of context. I try to teach my 13-year-old daughter that what you see on social media is not real life. It's not someone else's life. It's their highlight reel. And it's also, you need a fact check. Too many times I get frustrated when people, did you hear X, Y, Z? Well, where'd you get that? Well, I saw it on Facebook.
Right.
Well, where did it come from? And just people don't take the time. I don't know that I could have survived, growing up in this, day and age. If every single thing, it's a picture, it's a comment, it's, everybody puts it out there and there's no filter.
Right.
And I think people also think that they want that kind of echo chamber. They just want to throw something out, even if they're not 100% behind it, or even if they don't know that it's true. They just want to see how many people are going to rally behind them. They want that like button. They want that hit of dopamine. It's like, hey, I thought this is what my opinion is. What do you think? And they just throw it out there, and it really causes problems at the end of the day.
And even sometimes our teachers put things out there that they don't really think about, and what it starts. So we really tried to work with them. And when you have, we have about 680 employees. And so that's a lot of folks that can put something out there, so that can go south quickly. But we've done pretty well. We just really emphasize, please stop and think about what you're posting. And is it going to do any good? If what I'm posting, is it going to make a difference? Is it going to make anything better? And if it's not, just hang on to it. It can be your thought. We're not trying to, be the thought police here. We just want you to be smart. Teachers have kids coming into their class from all different walks of life whose parents believe a lot of different things. And our job is to reach each and every one of them. And we just can't afford to lose our ability to impact any of our kids, right? We can't just say, okay, you think the way I do, so I can impact you. And we just really don't want teachers to lose credibility with students because of something they've posted on social media. So, I don't do it because I want to be able to, so I don't have a Facebook. I do a little bit of tweeting, just something positive, but I don't track it for this reason. When I meet somebody, whether it be a parent, somebody in the community, I don't want to interact with them in a way knowing that they've just said something, derogatory about me or somebody or the school or something. I want to meet them in a neutral place because they put that out there, but that has no impact on me. And so I've tried. I don't. Unless something's dangerous, my staff will let me know, which hadn't happened.
I tell people the three, it's not three hard rules, but we try to look at is, things you always have to read whatever you're going to post and look at it in the most negative way possible, because that's the way that most people are probably going to take it. So everything can be taken out of context. Mm-hmm. Look at your, picture. It's, if you're taking a picture of what you're eating, but what's, outside the plate, what else is there, do you have a drink over in the corner? Is there an ashtray? Is there other things that you don't want people to see, but you were just focused on, what was right there in the front? And then the one that I personally have to deal with, which I tell people, does it affect other people? And the example I use all the time is I remember a few years back, my wife and she surprised me with a cruise. We were going do one of those little 5 days out of New Orleans, do the little thing on Carnival. And we were still had just started leaving, just kind of working our way through. And I started getting text from people saying enjoy your trip. You deserve it. Hope y'all have a good time. And I'm like, what in the world? I didn't tell anybody I was leaving. And she had taken the picture, on the back of the boat where, we were both there, and she had posted, that we're heading off. And it's I didn't want to tell anybody I was leaving, but her post affected me. And now, so I've got everybody, sending me messages.
Right.
So it's, people got to think there's collateral damage, on social media sometimes. So
no doubt.
So
that's just been a little bit of added to the moving parts that we deal with.
I can imagine. So you guys have a new school that you guys built, was it the year before last, or it opened last year? This thing's a monster, right?
So both of them. So we built a new Head Start through 8th grade school. We combined an elementary and a middle school on the north end of the parish. We call it Caneview. It was formerly Chamberlain Elementary and Duval Middle. And just built a new school for them. And they moved in January, I want to say, of 2020, right before the pandemic. We moved in that building. And then last year we opened Bruley High School, brand new Bruley High School. And both beautiful facilities. And in 2016, we passed a bond issue of about $90 million. And we did renovations and additions at every school. And then we built 2 new schools. And then in that also, we had a pay raise for teachers built into that, 2 separate issues, 2 separate agenda items or voting items. So teachers got a $5,000 pay raise, and then we had the $90 million bond issue. So the schools look great right now. Yeah, we're just very proud of them. They're clean, they're functional, and just very proud of the progress we've made there.
So one group went in the combined school went in last January, just got to know their way around, and then basically probably had to, shut it down.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Bruley, when was that done?
We opened it up in August of 20. So the combination school called Caneview was supposed to open up in August of 19, and we were delayed till January. So we're about 6 months behind. So we moved in there at midterm. We just waited. We could have moved in maybe in November. We waited till midterm, just try to make a clean break and give us that time, the Christmas holidays to make the transition. And then March 13th, it shut down. And then Bruley High School opened up this past August. We opened up in person. We were on a hybrid schedule. Part of the kids coming, a couple of days, and the other half of the kids coming the other days. And about October, we changed that and started bringing everybody back in. But yeah, so we opened 2 brand new schools under some weird circumstances.
Yeah, you bet. Just enough long time for people to figure out how to get around and be comfortable, and then change it up. So with that, anything, have you heard, sports is, is anybody, I haven't ever talked, everybody's talked, kind of school and what's happening there. Have you heard anything with, what their, plans are for, with sports for people? Is, things kind of, we don't know right now, or?
Yeah, I think right now everything's a go. I mean, the one difference in this year, 2 things. I mean, as much as it seems a little bit more confusing, because I will tell you, the Friday before we brought teachers back, we were going highly recommended for the mask. We weren't mandating it because that was kind of the guidance from the state. And then the following Monday, the directive changed. So we had to change plans but that's inside. The difference this year is, last year you wore a mask, you wore it everywhere. So right now outside, you don't have to. And also we're all face to face. We had a virtual academy last year to try and accommodate because it was such a new thing and people were pretty scared of it. But we did our numbers, Brandon, and last year, right at 2%, maybe less than 2% of our students tested positive throughout the whole school year. And about 10% of our teachers, maybe. We had a little bit more with the adults. The adults seemed to get it more, but, it wasn't bad at all. You're talking about maybe 50 or 60 kids that tested positive all year long. And we can't narrow down, but maybe a handful that they would possibly could have picked it up at school. Most of it was at home.
Yeah, no, I think, and, I've had the discussion with different people, and it's a discussion for another day, but, even if if we weren't putting kids in school, they're still getting together. They're still, they're going to go find each other. It's not like when we tell them to stay home, they're staying home.
I mean, I wouldn't have either, and I don't expect them to. They're kids, right? And we want them to live their life. So, and so I was really pleased with, the way our numbers. The biggest struggle last year was how many kids we had to quarantine that were healthy, right? We quarantined a lot of healthy kids. I mean, kids that were in quarantine multiple times. And we went to the legislature, I want to say around January or something, and got some relief, reduced the quarantine time, which was really helpful. So and it was only because, we were being extra safe in the beginning, right? And we should have been, because you just didn't know. But once we realized that, the kids with the mask or whatever it was, it just wasn't spreading that much at school. We think washing hands seemed to help a lot. We had a lot less other infectious diseases, your colds and your flus and all that last year, so that was beneficial.
Well, tell me, what is, and might be hard, I don't mean to put you on a spot, but I always say, especially, you got people running up and down, the highway, running around in the community, in the parish, some may have kids in school, some may not, but what, if you could get that message, to them, kind of what would it, is it, this is, the goals for the year, or this is, look where we've come, what would it be? Because not everybody, not even parents, especially nowadays, are walking the halls, in the schools.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing, for anybody in terms of a school district is having the trust of your community. If they trust you, then they're going to be really, even if they're not quite sure, they agree with you, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and they're going to work with you, and they're going to give it a shot, right? And that's hard. And the key to that is do what you say you're going to do, all right? And then the trust is, what have you done? I think we proved last year that we could keep our kids safe. So I would just tell them, hey, look at the numbers. Don't look at when the media puts out there were 5,000 new cases. Well, that's less than 0.5%. How about
Yeah.
look at the real numbers, versus those
Yeah.
percents. Because sometimes it's fear tactics, and boring doesn't sell, right? It doesn't sell newspapers, and it doesn't get hits on social media. So just
There's an old expression in media, and I can say it because I'm in media, but I don't think I'm in that kind of media. But it's like,
right.
if it bleeds, it leads.
It leads, it leads, right? And so try not to follow that, and just build some trust. Like our first, what do we gain by putting kids or teachers in danger? We absolutely gain nothing. We have everything to lose, right? So just understand that we're thinking about that every step of the way. But we also understand the danger of kids falling behind and not learning. Yeah, and we all realized last year the value of kids being on campus, being learning in person, face to face learning. And how valuable that is. And so we can't just keep hiding from this virus. And I'm not saying we are. I'm just saying it's a virus. Virus has spread. At some point in time, we have to get out and live and say, okay, how are we going to manage it, right? How are we going to deal with it? And so you get both sides of it. And we know, and another reason I don't look at social media is because there are a lot of differing opinions on this. And you're going to have those who say this is a hoax and it's not real. And you're going to have those say we need to shut everything down and not go to school for 2 months and let it pass. Well, it's not going to pass, right? And it's not a hoax, it's a real thing, So trying to block the extremes, right?
I grew up with I was always told it's not always black and white, there's shades of gray.
Yep. And so we've tried to be really clear about what we were doing, why we were doing it. Really clear that last year was maybe a little more difficult because you're in the midst of a presidential election cycle, and so a lot of people had the political ties to it, and so just telling people that we're making decisions strictly based on what we think is best for our kids, and just keep hammering that message, right? Agree or disagree, that's our motive. That's what we're here to do. That's why I chose to go into education 29 years ago. It wasn't to put kids in danger, and it wasn't to, as somebody called me, a puppet of the governor because I was following the governor's mandate, that kind of thing. That's not why we do what we do. We do it to help kids. Right.
Right.
We make mistakes.
And like you said, you guys did it last year, less than 2%. That's incredible. I think that's the trust I think is there. I think it's also probably, I've always said, anytime I talk with people, especially in your position with education, it's always trying to get parents involved.
Yeah.
More that, that's it. Sometimes I feel like I have the ability to say it. I was talking with the mayor, and I were talking on one of the previous shows over here, in Baton Rouge, and she was having to walk, kind of lightly around us. So we were talking about litter and blight and all this, and she was doing her great job of being very, considerate and, political for people. And then there's me, who's rough and just uncut. And I was like, look, this bottom line needs to start at home. Parents need to tell their kid when they open the door and the trash falls out, when they're walking, through Costco park. No, you chase it down when it flies off. You pick it up and you put it in the trash. That's where it starts. Yep. And so I equate that same, when it comes to, kids, that yes, we're all excited. And I think this is the week that we're going to start seeing, I'm with you and you're in the same camp. I don't deal with the social media, but this is where we're all going to see, little Johnny standing in front of the front door holding the sign. It's fourth grade. We're going to see all the kids, back to school shots. We're going to see all the parents. And this is where this comes back to all the parents. My wife does one where it's the, kind of teachers, it's your job, now we're done, handing off over to you. I've seen them. They did it. My kid's school last year. It was kind of like a bunch of parents came in with T-shirts. It was like "Tag you're it," and hand it off to kids.
It's pretty good.
And it's funny, but at the same time, I always, to help and be the blunt person. It really takes, even though we are getting back into it. I'm the last person that should ever be homeschooling, but to be able to still help, and to be involved, to come to the school meeting, to engage, voice your opinion, whether you agree with what's happening or not, you still need to be active, and that's where it starts. So you can't just I'm a big proponent of making sure people don't ever, like you said, you may not be able to say it as bluntly as I can, but school's not a place to dump your kid and let them do all the educating. You've got to do a lot yourself as well as a parent. And so,
Yeah, and I think the biggest piece of that is just like I'm not going to come tell you how to do your job, right?
yeah.
It's support. It's not advice. It's support. There's a difference. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need you to tell me how to do it, but the part of that is we've been hired, we've been selected, whatever, to do that job. What we need from parents is to make sure kids understand how valuable it is. If they would just teach their kids how valuable the education is, give them a safe, quiet place at home, maybe to do some homework. I don't need to do it 8 hours a day, right? But just to really just the value of it, because a lot of times parents, if they had a bad experience as a student, we talk to our teachers all the time. If they had a bad experience as a student, right, and maybe the teachers and things didn't go well, they may have a negative connotation towards school, right? And that's not their child's
And,
fault. It's not our fault, but we have to try and change that. And so,
well, and I think exactly to a point, I've listened and I've watched it happen before, and I've kind of made some corrections, and I sometimes have to catch myself in full, honesty. Sometimes as parents, a child might bring home a paper or like, here's a grade, and then you're reading it, and it's kind of you get upset with the teacher.
yeah, yeah,
And I think as parents, we've got to be very careful to, if you're upset with the teacher, if it's, my wife, like, we don't have that discussion in front of the kids. Like I can completely disagree with the answer was right or wrong. We could play this. If I had a whiteboard, I could do this all day on Common Core math,
yep,
but it's not a discussion that I feel personally that you should do, because then you change the perception. If that child is listening to the parents say, well, she doesn't know what she's doing, or he doesn't know, or that's not right, or that's going to bleed back into the classroom. And then that's going to work its way around. Well, this is what my mom said, and this is really the case. And then now the teacher's fighting not only to get the kids to understand, but then, because let's face it, most kids trust their parents, and they follow their beliefs. And if you've got a parent who's beating up on the school system, a superintendent, the kid's going to bring that to school.
without a doubt. And so it works both ways when it's good and when it's bad. But even if the teacher's wrong, it's better for the kid to believe in that teacher, and your child's going to be better off. And then you go and sit and visit with the teacher about some things that maybe you're uncomfortable with, or you don't like, or you disagree with, right? And just sit down and have that conversation. And that's an awesome point, Brandon, not to do that in front of your kids, because the kids got to go to school every. Same thing in coaching. You're always at home bashing the coach. Then when the kid is he really going to believe in what that coach is teaching him, right? Mm-hmm. It's better if they do believe it. And I had a great example of my dad. I didn't realize that one of the coaches I had in my life was so terrible, because my dad, as a coach himself before, would never say a negative word. Didn't realize until I was 30 years old, and I started looking back and go, wow, he wasn't very good. But my dad never let me believe that. I never knew that. So I just did everything possible, and whatever was asked. And that was just beneficial. And so I think that makes a huge difference. And if you do have an issue, then you go sit and talk to the teacher. I mean, do you do that when you get back from the doctor's office? Do you start critiquing what the doctor does and says in front of you? I mean, we don't do that, right? And so there's a balance there between letting the professional be the professional. But if you disagree, how do you handle that? And from my perspective, if parents will just go sit and visit, you have ways to talk now. Just visit with that teacher and share your concerns with them. A lot of times you'll come to a good conclusion, and your child will be better off.
Yeah, and I think and too many times I'm a real data-driven person, within my company and companies involved. It's all about data and metrics for me, to the point to where probably most of my staff hates it. We look at numbers and scorecard items, like every week we go through this stuff. But I say that because, I tie this back to where too many times we make decisions or we make up assumptions based on emotion, to where if you've got a teacher who maybe, and if you're having these, well, she doesn't know or he doesn't know, and this is the problem. It's like, if you really went back and counted up how many times you had this disagreement, with a teacher, let's say it was 10 times.
Yeah.
And the whole number of decisions that teacher or school is making throughout the whole school year, it's like 10 times you disagreed, like really, why are we throwing somebody under the bus, over something like that? Really, the whole, like, back to you talking the percentages things, let's let's be realistic, at the end of the day. So keep that in stride. And if you don't feel like going and sitting down face to face, jump on a Zoom call. I find people can be a lot more blunt on Zoom than they can when you're sitting in the same room with them.
And I agree. And I would just say this: I'm a defender of teachers. And look, we have teachers that make mistakes, and we really work hard to make sure that the teachers we have, they really care about kids, want to do right by kids. But we're not perfect by any means. But most teachers are doing the very best they possibly can with the skill set they have and with what they know. What we need, if we want to change education in Louisiana, this is my soapbox. We have to get more of our best and brightest people choosing education as a profession. And if we keep beating teachers up, we keep just pounding the negative about schools that you see all over the place, who's going to want to be a part of that profession? I got into it because my parents did it. I respected what they did. I wanted to make the same difference in kids' lives that my coaches and teachers made in my life. But man, if you just keep beating it up and saying education's terrible, it's failing, who wants to be a part of that? We better start we recruit kids, and we're guilty of this as educators. We really do a good job of encouraging them to go into engineering and go into the medical profession and, hey, learn a skill or a trade and go be a welder, go be an electrician, be a carpenter. We do a great job. Guess what? The one thing we don't ever tell them to do, we don't ever tell them to be a teacher. And if we want to, the easiest way, the quickest way, the best way to make our education system better is to put great teachers in front of kids as often as possible. And smart people can choose to go be teachers, right? It's not just if I can't do something else, I'll go teach. That's not true. That's not true.
No. And I think it's telling the stories, that's what's important, that people need to know that it makes a difference. I think everybody's got that one, teacher that touched them, that made that difference, it's there, everybody's got it, but good point. We skip over it. It's like, hey, we're going to teach you how to go do all this stuff. Now go, do something else. And, hell, let's just be honest. If everybody was honest with themselves, I don't know too many people that were jumping around excited, a year and a half ago when they were homeschooling their kids.
There was one good thing about it. I think the public really recognized the value, the skill set, the special skill set that teachers have and the impact they have. I think if nothing else, it really made them appreciate teachers. Now, I really do. I really think it made them appreciate that, because they say, wow, this isn't just that easy. Not anybody can just do this, right? It is a call. It is a call.
I couldn't do it. I got 3 and I did it one day and gave up after the first day and didn't even look back. Delegated the task to the wife. And she's still probably pissed off at me for it. And at the end of the day, I only had 3 in my classroom at home. I didn't have 20 or 30, in there that were all, different. So it's, everybody just maybe remember that, everybody's doing the best they can. Like I said, nobody signed up to go to cause trouble or to make it harder for a child. Everyone's there from a mission of service and a mission to help, and to serve and do what's best, for the child. So
I would say the majority. You have a small percentage of teachers that probably don't need to be teaching, right? Maybe they don't have the right heart. Maybe they're just doing it. But the vast majority, 90% of our teachers or more, do it because they want it. They want to help kids. And even when they mess up, their motives are pure. They're trying to help. It's our job to teach them. It's our job to train them, right? We have to do that. But, we were in 1999, we had about 2,100 students graduating from colleges of education, 1999. In 2019, that number was down to 912. Over 1,000 less college graduates coming out of the College of Education. And I mean, the benefit is we encouraged people to go into other fields, and they were doing it, right, and having success. But the drawback is we don't have enough teachers. Our pool is not big enough, and we need a bigger pool. We need to encourage. We've started something that's called Educators Rising in West Baton Rouge Parish, where we're literally taking high school students and trying just like we do with nursing, just like we do with welding, just like we do with other professions, and encourage them to go into the field of teaching.
What better way? You've got everything there to do it. You don't have to go build a classroom. You don't have to build a welding shop. You don't have to go build, a medical room. You've got everything you need right there.
Yep, and it's a skill set. And, working with the universities, because education is the only field that you don't go into your freshman year. You go into engineering as a freshman. You go into I was a pre-med major before I decided to get into education. You just go into different fields, but in education, you go into a content area. You learn about English, you go math. And then after your sophomore year, you have to have a certain GPA to get into the College of Education. So we're hurting ourselves. Think about your first couple of years of college. That might not be your best years of college, and sometimes.
No.
There, you want to have a little fun your first time.
The Mondays,
Yeah.
Monday sickness, nobody can be anywhere on Monday morning, never a freshman.
And your GPA is not at a certain level, you can't get into the College of Education. We're kind of cutting our nose off to spite our face in some ways. And so we've had some discussions with universities statewide, and they're listening, and I think we're making some progress on that.
Well, that's awesome. I never thought about it. I'm glad you bring it up. It's a good point. Teach everybody to do everything but what we need, the most of.
Yep.
So, well, look, Wes, I appreciate it. I tell you what, there's more important things that you have to do than sit around and talk to me. So I appreciate you making some time. It's going to be an interesting year. So
yeah, no, man, look, I'm passionate about this. I love talking about it. If you want to talk about it, I may have chased some rabbits you don't want me to chase. Now, I apologize, but I think we do better for our students in Louisiana than maybe we get credit for in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I'm a whole student kind of person. I think we have to teach our students morally, academically, socially, and spiritually. I think we need to hit on all four assets of that, because we're developing human beings. We're not filling people. We're not Pez dispensers of content or knowledge. We're developing humans that need to be able to think critically, need to be able to get along with others, need to have compassion for others, right? Need to have some self-discipline and some self-drive. All those things are just as important for somebody to be successful. We want our kids to be successful when they leave us.
Absolutely. And it's a lot more than just knowing the facts, right?
That's part of it. That's just
knowing when, war of X was fought or when this was there, that's a piece, but nobody's asking me about that.
Nowadays you can just Google it. Right?
Exactly.
So what are you doing with that information? What are you doing with it is more important than what the information is. So it's kind of where we are.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate it, and I'd love to have you back and check in and hear kind of what's going on. This has been fun, to hear kind of where you guys are and what status. I think it'd be awesome just to get some information out, especially once you're in the rhythm of kind of what's it looking like for this year.
Yeah.
Maybe who some of those kind of some of the rising. Maybe we can grab a teacher or two, and have them jump in with us. So,
man, I appreciate the opportunity. I love talking about education, and I love talking about West Baton Rouge Parish. It's a great place. So I appreciate the time, Brandon. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, sir, and we'll definitely have you back. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.